Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya. Super excited to have you join us on Daybreak this morning. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, Ayuba. And indeed, I am very happy to have you back. How was your leave?
Well,
I don't even think I need to ask. You look well rested. Welcome back.
I try to, I try to rest, with a lot of distractions, however. But
I'm sure there were very good distractions, though.
Yeah, well, some of them good distractions, some of them, all the things that you have to worry about as, of course, a family.
Yeah, I can
in
imagine.
In the month of Ramadan and, Easter.
There's a lot
and
to do.
A lot to do, really.
Yes, but then
it was a good
we
one.
missed you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you so
Good
much.
morning, Nigerians, and a very, very beautiful day to you. Thank you for joining us. My name is Stella Iyaji.
Yes, and today, 11th of April 2023, it's time to go back to work after the long holiday. Should we say long holidays?
Yeah, it's quite long. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4 days.
So,
and I know some people will not resume.
Regardless.
Nigeria.
But that gives you a lot enough time to at least have some rest. And, this month is a blessed month, really. You have the Ramadan and you also have
we had the Lent, both of them happening almost at the same time, and I mean,
yes,
I think it was very significant for the country.
And a moment of reflection for us all as people who share faith, to reflect on our lives and to see if we are really living an exemplary life as the prophets really.
And one of the important things that I observed was the fact that, midway into the Lenten season, the Ramadan came, and then we saw Christians and Muslims actually break their fast together in some instances, which, should help to foster unity in this country.
Exactly. I hope to see that extend to all parts or all spheres of our activities in the country, especially politically speaking.
Especially politically
that's one
speaking.
area that we talk about unity, but you do not see it in practice, really, especially if you listen to all the kinds of narratives that we hear.
All these very corrosive and divisive statements that have come up since the elections. I do hope that, things will get better as the days unfold.
Indeed. All right, then, let's take a look at some of the headlines that we have this morning. Hajj, FCT intending pilgrims get deadline to complete fare.
Easter, clerics must stop desecrating pulpits with partisanship, hate speech, Sultan.
Gunmen kill policeman, injure 3 officers in Ikorodu.
Now let's take a look at the details. Intending pilgrims who have made a deposit for the forthcoming Hajj with the Federal Capital Territory Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board have till Friday, April 21st to complete their Hajj fare payment, as announced by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON. NACON had on Friday announced 2.9 million naira only as Hajj fares for pilgrims from the FCT this year. A statement by the Public Relations Officer of the board, Mohammed Lawa Aliyu, said the deadline was to enable the board to comply with the deadline set by NACON for all states and the FCT in respect of payment of Hajj fares for this year. The statement explained that the payment of the balance by respective intending pilgrims will enable the board to establish its prospective master list for the trip, considering the time frame for the airlift of the intending pilgrims to the Holy Land.
All right, now President General, Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs and Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, has asked President Christian Association of Nigeria, Daniel Oko, to leverage his committed leadership to partner with the NSCIA to guide, admonish, and discourage pastors and imams from desecrating their pulpits with political partisanship and hate speech. The Sultan, in a message signed by Deputy Secretary General, NSCIA, Professor Salisu Shehu, congratulated the Khan's leader and the entire Christians in Nigeria on the Easter celebration. He noted that as a religious festival commemorating a significant landmark in Christianity, Easter serves as a springboard for spiritual renewal, religious reawakening, and general rebirth.
Now, gunmen shot a policeman to death on Friday in the Ikorodu area of Lagos State. Police confirmed on Monday. It was further gathered that the assailant escaped with the rifle of the slain policeman. The police spokesperson in Lagos State, SP Benjamin Hundeyin, told the news agency of Nigeria that 3 other police operatives were seriously injured in the attack. Operatives of the Immortal Police Division in the Ikorodu area were on patrol duty when they came under the assailants' attack at Imoren Junction on Itokin Road in the area. Local sources said the assailants, suspected errand boys of land grabbers, ambushed the police patrol team, opened fire on it, killed one on the spot, and escaped with his rifle.
All right. Now, residents of Nasarawa State have embarked on a counter-protest against the action of supporters of the People's Democratic Party who have been protesting against the outcome of the governorship election in the state. Abubakar Abdullahi reports that people across different faith and ethnic groups participated in the protest. The report is presented from our studio.
The Nasarawa State residents who participated in the protest in their numbers expressed dismay and overactions they describe as an alien to the culture, norms and values of the people of the state. They said politics is not a do-or-die affair that will warrant people to be desperate to the extent going naked in the name of seeking justice, whereas there are appropriate avenues like the courts where they could seek redress. They maintain that since the election has been conducted and a winner announced, what should bother residents is what dividends of democracy can continue to enjoy, in addition to the peace the state already enjoys.
Therefore, we are here to make a counter-protest which is more of peace in what has been taking place in the previous days by opposition party that have hired women to come and naked themselves here. That does not characterize a good terms of humanity because it is unorthodox, unconventional, and to the dignity and principle of human existence.
So after these elections that just happened on the 18th of last month, we were surprised to hear the fact that after the declaration of His Excellency as the winner of the elections, a group of women, mostly not from Nasarawa State, are taking over the streets of Lafia. They are not just taking over the streets of Lafia, but naked, with show of nudity. That is insanity.
The protesters called on politicians to put the interests of the state above theirs through actions that will promote the good of the state rather than tarnishing its image. It will be recalled that a day after the Independent National Electoral Commission declared Governor Abdullahi Sule as the winner of the state governorship election, some women in black attire gathered at the People's Democratic Party Secretariat in Lafia, protesting the outcome of the election. Trust TV reports that the PDP women protest in Nasarawa State has continued unabated, thereby making another section of the state to commence a counter-protest with a resolve that they will only stop when the women stop protesting naked.
All right, now it's been almost a month since the 2023 elections, and residents in Kano are still trying to come to terms with the effects of post-election violence. Trust TV's correspondent, Idris Jibrin, in this report examines the impact of the post-election violence that occurred in Kano State after the governorship elections. Let's take the report.
Yusuf Al-Hassan is a member of a 8 group in Kano who was attacked by a group of political thugs while on a campaign rally few days to the elections. Nearly a month after the election, Yusuf is still trying to come to terms with the trauma.
I'm not exactly the person that I am before. I'm feeling that at times. I'm feeling anxiety, this thing. I'm feeling some of many things that I'm not feeling before. Even the way that I'm behaving, I'm walking. I'm not. Even the work that we are doing at Masjid, I'm not go back to that work again.
Shortly after the governorship election result was announced in Kano, violence broke out in some part of the state, leading to a loss of lives, destruction of both government and individuals' properties across the state. According to some Kano residents, although the post-election violence has not inflicted much damage on the society, but it shows weakness on the part of security agencies who were saddled with the responsibility of maintaining law and order.
I believe there is negligence on the part of security operatives. They are saddled with the responsibility of protecting the lives and property of the people. If they have remained committed to their job, I think all these things wouldn't have happened. But several people were killed, many properties were destroyed, people's houses were burnt to ashes. I think the security operatives need to do much more than what they are doing right now.
Although Kano State Police Command has recently confirmed the arrest of many political thugs who were involved in post-election violence, but residents believe that politicians are equally responsible for the violence.
I think for us in our area, yes, there are crises, there are political crises. After the election was announced, violence happens there, and then I know 2 people were killed and another person was seriously injured and was taken to the hospital. So these things have happened, and I believe politicians are responsible, are partly responsible for this, because I see no reason why a politician will allow his supporters to go and be destroying people's properties even after the election was announced. Whether you are the winner or the loser, I think it's not good to do that.
Elections are over, but not for people like Yusuf, who is still suffering with what may likely be a brain damage. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
All right, now Muslim faithful fasting in the month of Ramadan are enjoined to eat dates, fruits or drink water at the point of breaking their fast. Some habitual cigarette smokers, however, prioritize smoking as a starter before anything else. In this report, Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman sought to find out why.
It is sunset and the Muslim faithful are preparing to break their fasts, an act called iftar in Arabic language. While it is a prophetic injunction to use dates or fruits, then water as a starter, these category of Muslims have another priority: cigarettes.
If you allow me, I would have loved to smoke cigarette first before the interview, because it's more important to me. Of course, I broke my fast with the cigarette you are saying on my hands.
It differs, however, even amongst the cigarette smokers. This young man says despite the crave for a stick of his favorite cigarette, he can't afford to overlook the reward for adhering to prophetic injunction.
I first broke my fast with pap and akara before smoking the cigarette. I think it is the ideal thing to do.
Though one cannot rule out the impact of youthful exuberance as highlighted by this ex-smoker, the question is, what does Islam say about prioritizing cigarette at this point of iftar?
I'm an ex-smoker in the 1980s. Then, if I want to break my fast, I start with cigarette because of the crave for it. But I have repented during Babangida era.
Sun saba wa koyarwar manzon Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Na biyu ita kanta.
Doing so is contrary to prophetic teachings. Though initially there was no strong admonition against it, except that it is dangerous to health. Islamic scholars later found out that it is forbidden.
Fasting in the month of Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It requires faithful abstinence from eating, drinking, and engaging in sexual intercourse, as well as other immoral acts from the sunrise to the sunset. It's an act of worshipping Allah. But beyond the bountiful reward, it also purifies the heart, mind, and souls of the fasting Muslims. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Shafiu Suleiman, for that report. Now, still on the Ramadan. Reward from Allah is a major motivation for fasting during this holy month. But beside the health benefit to their body system, non-Muslims who participate in the Ramadan may miss the rewards. Hamid Oyebade gives us this report.
Fasting in the month of Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, considered to be obligatory act of worship for all Muslims. These include the Muslim creed, daily prayers, charity to the poor, fasting in the month of Ramadan, and the pilgrimage to Mecca for those who are able. Fasting has health benefits to human body besides the spiritual development and the reward from Allah.
The health benefits of fasting includes fasting promotes blood sugar control. It boosts the brain function and other cognitive functions. Fasting aids weight loss, and also fasting has been found to increase the production of growth hormone.
However, scholars believe that only those who are Muslims will earn reward from Allah for fasting during the month of Ramadan.
The Prophet says, he who fasts with faith and sincerity will get multiple rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the acceptance of prayer is included among the rewards from Allah during the fasting for Ramadan. But for the non-Muslims, there's no reward for them because the faith is not there.
Ramadan is a month in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it down to be a training ground for the Muslim, to be able to nurture their mind and their hearts in obedience to the injunction and rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any Muslim that fasts according to the rule and injunction of Allah is compulsory that his mind will be in peace, and at the same time he'll be able to nurture his mind to follow the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because someone is fasting, anything that can vitiate his fasting, he'll be shunning away from it, like involving in sinful acts. So that's the first thing which Allah wants us to gain from fasting, to be able to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The clerics are urging Muslims to step up their act of worship as the month of Ramadan winds down, so as to earn bountiful rewards from Allah. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Oshogbo.
All right, now Nigerian youths have been advised to shun all forms of social vices that are capable of leading them to destruction. The advice was given at the annual Ramadan lecture put together by the Federation of Muslim Women's Association in Nigeria, Form 1. Nafisa Bello completes the story.
In her welcome address, the Amira of the Edo State chapter of the Federation of Muslim Women's Association in Nigeria, Form 1, Haji Arabi Abiri, enjoined well-to-do Muslims to increase their reward during the holy month by providing for the less privileged in the society. She also harped on the need to practice self-discipline while adhering to other fundamental rules guiding the faith.
We should endeavor to give alms to the vulnerable and do good deeds to reap the full reward of this holy month. Other important etiquettes of the holy month include reading the glorious Quran, observing the prescribed 5 daily prayers, practicing self-restraint and self-reflection.
Delivering his lecture on the topic, Realistic and Effective Goals for Ramadan, the guest lecturer, Imam Abdul Hafiz Sani, educated the Muslim Ummah, particularly the youths, against all forms of social vices by appreciating and learning the Quran, which he said guides one on the correct way of life.
What is the right of the Quran? The right of the Quran is that it should be learned. People should learn it. And it should be read. It should be studied. People should be educated in the Quran. Today, a lot of anomalies in the life of the people. The Muslims not being an exception. Today, you have many young men. It is not the worst of what is happening, but I have to start with that. Carrying on their head the light of which we have not seen before. They carry hair on their head, the light of which we have not seen before. You are calling it trend. You are calling it style. You are calling it any name you like.
Some participants took turns to corroborate and share the gains from the annual event.
Allah for forgiveness, then you ask for Allah mercy. Those are the different goals that a Muslim is supposed to earn and strive for during Ramadan.
gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ tí Ramadan kọ́ wa ìbẹ̀rù Ọlọ́run òtítọ́ ká tẹ̀lé kápẹ́ Ramadan àádálẹ̀ àníṣe mọ́ ọkọ̀ Ọlọ́run fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀.
When we are fasting, remove hatred, remove envy, every other thing from your mind and follow Islam.
Your fellow human beings, you show them love and you take care of them. Do not oppress them. As a leader, be humble, make sacrifice and take care of those who are under you.
To spice up the annual event, which held at the Central Mosque, Benin City, the Edo State capital, there were other activities, which included recitation of the Holy Quran and the Hadith by students of Form 1 group of schools. Nafisa Bello, Trust TV News, Benin.
Thank you, Nafisa Bello, for that report. With that, we'll now go for a very short break. When we return, we'll look at what the newspapers are saying this morning. Please stay.
That's great.
documenting the Nigerian story.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak, and we'll be taking a look at a review of the papers. We have Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director, Daily Trust Foundation, with us in the studio. He'll be taking a look at the stories with us in the studio. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here again.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's start with the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The lead story here says consumers groan over epileptic power supply. It has the riders that says situation worsening heat, access to water amid Ramadan. Muslim clerics, faithful, accuse discos of sabotage. Electricity companies blame low allocation from National Grid. You find that on page 4. Now the pictorial shows you children celebrating at the playground, basically at the parks during Easter. Also you have above the lead story, arrest of Kano singers escorts, police commercialization responsible for abuse on page 11. $22 million Calabar Channel dredging, Intel's contracts cost my job, Hadiza Bala on page 19. World Bank to advocate debt restructuring for developing countries on page 19 as well. Now you have below the pictorial, resident doctors reject bill mandating 5-year service for doctors. You'd find that on page 5. How to secure your bank account from fraudsters on page 20. Buhari embarks on 8-day visit to Saudi Arabia today on page 6. Bear attacks as sacrifice for new Nigeria, Obi tells supporters on page 10. All right, these are the main stories on the Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says APC kicks as Northern senators insist on Senate presidency. We have a first rider that says Ndume, Kanu, Niger senators poised to contest, says Senate needs competent hands. And the second rider, any Muslim aspiring to be Senate president lacks respect for Constitution. This is coming from the vice chairman of the party. And then we have the third rider which says APC yet to decide on zoning, but won't allow another Saraki Dogara scenario, says spokesperson. And then beneath that, we have a pictorial of kids celebrating the Easter celebration which just ended. And we have a caption that says, Easter, Lagos FCT residents celebrate, grateful for surviving cash crunch. Beneath that, we have enumerators indicted for sexual harassment will be dismissed, NPC. Please arrest suspect in Instagram cloth vendor's death. We also have Nigerian unemployment rate to hit 41% in 2023. This is according to KPMG. And just above the masthead, we have Buhari should suspend fuel subsidy removal, declare marketers. We also have UK restriction can't stop doctors' migration. This is coming from NMA and the Association of Resident Doctors. Finally, on the front page of the Punch, we have port reconstruction will cost $800 million, says NPA boss. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right, now let's take a look at the Nation newspaper this morning, where the lead story there says APC INEC to poll tribunal, Obi's petition a waste of time. It has the writer that says LP's candidate was PDP member when he picked ticket. Election conducted in compliance with Electoral Act agency, insist. Now you find above the masthead, the Bola Ajibola I knew, that's Afe Babalola saying, cash flow from banks still low, says NLC. Pre-poll, how Tinubu scaled 18 landmines in court. NMA seeks better environment for doctors, others to operate. You would also find at the very beneath there, suspected Yahoo boy lynched in Ondo for crushing two to death. So these are the main stories here on the Nation newspaper.
Over now to This Day newspaper. It has a lead story that says, with 50 days to go, Buhari defends choice of service chiefs. And there's a rider there that says, knocks cooker again. Insists clearly cooks only bad news. We also have wanton killings remain Buhari's lowest points, says additional. Still for the lead story, the third rider says his ailment was a setback, presidency admits. And above that, we have, this is coming from Obi, mission to rescue Nigeria will come to fruition. And then a rider there, Clark, coming from Clark, Lai Mohammed's US trip increasing political tension. And above that, INEC replies APP, says electronic collation of results not mandatory. And above the masthead, we have Tinubu Obi eulogize Afenifere leader Ayo Adebanjo at 95. The first rider, he's been consistent in fight for social justice, says President-elect. And the second rider, he has no bone of bigotry in him, LP presidential candidate attest. And then we have IMF, World Bank urge Nigeria, others to provide targeted financing to SMEs. These are the major stories on This Day newspaper for today.
All right, and on the Guardian newspaper this morning, you see the stories. Nigeria's industrial base weaker over poor credit support from banks on page 6. Buhari undertakes last official trip to Saudi Arabia, salutes Dangote at 66. At 95, struggle continues for a better Nigeria, says Adebanjo. World Bank sees 2% output growth in 2023. At 80, Biden considers re-election in 2024. Private school operators and burden of multiple charges. These are the main stories on The Guardian today.
Now let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper. It has a lead story that says APC are daggers drawn over zoning of NAS leadership. The first rider, Lukman Ndomaigba, asks lawmakers to be fair to all zones. We also have Izunazor to slug it out with Kalu in Southeast. EFCC declines comment on monitoring dollar-carrying aspirants. And above that, we have 48 days to go. Presidency defends PMB's performance. And above that, Khan demands apology over peak milk advert on Good Friday. We also have insecurity remain focused, Army Chief tells troops. Beneath that, NCAA grants Eagles ADC may fly as national carrier. And just beneath that, police arrest 40 suspected members of criminal syndicate in Abuja. And just above the masthead, we have Tambuwal petitions INEC over relisting of polling units for rerun. And finally, on the Leadership, bill to halt doctors' immigration, modern day slavery. This is coming from the National Association of Resident Doctors. These are the major stories on Leadership for today.
All right. Now let's get some perspectives to some of the stories that we have this morning from our guest reviewer, Dr. Theophilus. Quite a number of stories here this morning. We'll begin with the Daily Trust, where we have a story there talking about this issue, this bill that is proposing 5-year service for medical doctors before they can leave Nigeria. So the doctors, the resident doctors, are rejecting that bill, and there has been a lot of uproar, really, trailing this bill as introduced.
Well, as you said, it's becoming very controversial because, to me, that bill is quite unnecessary. You know, if you look at the exodus of medical doctors from Nigeria, you discover that they are underutilized. You know, this is a country that people struggle to gain admission to medical schools. And after, they have struggled to obtain their, degrees, they will hardly get a place to work. As we speak, there are thousands of graduates from our medical schools who have not done their housemanship in large numbers. And they go from hospital to hospital, especially government hospitals, where they can be properly trained. They don't have placement. Now, apart from that, we discovered that even the remuneration, is very, very weak. Medical doctors, what they receive as salaries, is so meager to the kind of effort they put in. You need to go to the hospital in Nigeria and see how medical doctors work. Sincerely, they are overworked. Many of them are overworked. I remember in 2012, when I took my father to the National Hospital Abuja, I thought that, my work as a journalist was more tedious, but I discovered that of a medical doctor was much more tedious, because you have to think, you have to adjust your thinking as you meet each patient. But then what you are paid for this mental, work that you do is not much.
Well, Dr. Abba, all of these arguments that you're putting forward are arguments that have consistently been put forward by the doctors and a lot of other Nigerians. And I do agree that you cannot stop a citizen who wants to leave the country. I agree. But there are some persons that, since this bill came up, that are saying, well, there are lots of doctors that are sponsored by states. There are lots of doctors that get scholarship to study medicine. And that some people are saying that maybe the bill should be targeted at them, that, okay, if a state sponsors you, or if you went to study medicine through scholarship, you should be able to stay okay for 5 years before you leave the country. There are some people arguing that.
Well, the argument, is right. If the state government sponsored you, you must have entered into an agreement with the state government. It's okay. After my service, after my studies, I will stay for so number of years. But what I'm actually driving at is this. If you are saying medical doctors should not leave Nigeria because they are medical doctors, why would you allow accountants to leave? Why would you allow IT experts to leave? As we speak, many IT experts in Nigeria have left the country. They've gone to other parts of the world to seek a greener pasture. So you cannot say medical doctors should not go. But my argument is this: we need medical personnel. We did an investigation last year into this issue, and we discovered that, many medical doctors are complaining that even in their areas of specialization, they don't have access to, good equipment, that's facilities. They don't have access to modern knowledge, latest innovations in these fields. And unless you go out there, you go to Europe or to America, to other, even Asian countries, you don't have access to these things. So you are just, using the knowledge that you acquire from the university, just within Nigeria. We are not improving on your knowledge. You are not improving on your skills, even as a medical doctor. So the ball is in the court of government. Instead of building gigantic hospitals, we need equipment. We need we need the kind of facilities that will make a Nigerian to go to a hospital, a general hospital, for instance, and say, okay, I was there, I was examined, there was investigation done on my health, problem, and I'm satisfied that, look, even the treatment I'm receiving is the right treatment.
And this is coming at a time when countries like the UK, for instance, is banning, social welfare firms and organizations, health and social welfare firms, from recruiting health personnel, medical personnel coming from Nigeria, because the World Health Organization has now said that Nigeria now falls under the list of countries where there is urgent need for more medical personnel and the rest of them. So we have need for them here domestically, but then we do not have what they need to operate and to serve, as appropriate. And countries like UK are saying, don't come here. So at the end of the day, what are we looking at? Redundancy?
No, actually, what has happened is that it's not only Nigeria that exports, let me use that word now, I don't know whether it's the right word, medical doctors to UK. India does so. Pakistan also, Then you have people from maybe some other Asian countries who exports medical doctors to the UK. In fact, the number of Indians in UK, the ratio, is higher than the ratio of Nigerian doctors in the UK. But there has been this deliberate attempt. I don't know if the right word to use is to blackmail Nigerians who go to the UK. Not only medical doctors, but even nurses who go to the UK. Everybody is saying, oh, we have no need for doctors in Nigeria, meanwhile they are living in Nigeria. But nobody is talking about the fact that the government, the authorities are not doing the right thing. You need to ensure that these people maximize their knowledge. You need to ensure that these people, keep pace with the changes, in the sector. We need to ensure that, look, even when you go to the hospital, you have access to, to drugs that
Doctor,
need to,
Are you very sure that even if all of these things you're mentioning are provided, Nigerian doctors wouldn't want to leave? I mean, people, the grass always looks greener at the other side, right? So there are no matter what you pay, there are some people that will still not be comfortable with that, and they'll still want to leave the country.
No, but actually there are many medical doctors who want to return to Nigeria. Many of them. Why do they want to return? Because they've been exposed to so much, and they think, well, let's go back and replicate these things in our country. It's not like everybody just wants to, even when they go, they want to come and help. But the atmosphere, the environment, for them to practice what they have is not there. Now, if you go to, a typical Nigerian hospital, and you can't even conduct some tests, so the doctor will be using, is it like this? You just have to go online, it's okay. Is it, how do you feel? He said, this is how I feel. It's okay. Let's see. They Google some things, read some medical, so it's okay. I think this is it. There's no precision. You understand? So you are giving drugs, and even you, this doctor is not really very sure. I remember my younger brother had an experience late last year. Now, he went to a hospital in Nigeria, a federal government hospital in Abuja here, and they gave him, a drug. And, when early in the morning, I did not even, he just called me. Say, brother, I say, how are you? Say, I'm not fine, no. Please, come. I will die now. I said, oh, why would you die? He said, I'm feeling so pain. I drove to the place, picked him from that place, took him to another hospital, and by the time they said, okay, he said, I complained about this, and this is the drug that was given to me. The doctor in the other hospital shouted, said, this drug is not just administered. You don't just administer this drug, because it is, I don't want to use the word fatal, but this drug can even kill. So when we're reading through what the drug, the side effects of the drug, it said that, look, this can even lead to death. What did they do? They don't have to flush this drug out of his system. But the person who gave him this drug gave it to him because he felt that, oh, well, we cannot do any test now, but I know that no matter what is there that is disturbing you, this will clear it. And that is not how, these things are done in developed societies, because medicine has gone to the level of precision. And now in Nigeria, you go to a government hospital, the machines are not working. If you go to many of the people who have to undergo chemotherapy or physiotherapy, radiotherapy, they will tell you that the machine is not working. They will tell you that, we don't have the screening machine here and so the doctors now have to depend on internet. They have to depend on maybe talking to other doctors, consulting with others in order to prescribe. So that is not how these things are done.
So you will argue that we need the medical doctors travel abroad, even if it is just for the experience sake.
Okay, it's good for them to travel abroad, but if you want to stop them from traveling abroad, then you have to do a whole lot of things. It's not just building hospitals and saying, no, it's the achievement of my government. There must be equipment in these hospitals.
And since we've been talking about the exodus of doctors, and this has been going on for a while, have you seen any deliberate effort, maybe on the part of the government, to change the narrative, as it were?
Well, I've not seen the government doing much, except maybe, Buhari was talking about the State House Clinic now being available for others to use and all this and all that. I've seen some, but most of the time is mainly political. When you see government who put up structures and give it an attractive name, and so this is what the referral hospital, this, and then when you get there, it's called that the systems are not working, the equipment don't work. So I'm saying that instead of stopping these people, make this place attractive for them to operate. You know, we need these doctors in Nigeria, yes, but then don't restrict them. Make the facilities available and make sure that they are paid. There was this story of one hospital in North Central State. There was only one cancer doctor. How do you call them? Oncologist. Only one oncologist in that hospital. You know, he was the only one. So anybody who came, he was the one attending to them. Last year he left because he said, look, he was wasting away. You know, the knowledge he had was already fading. You know, like if you have a PhD, say your PhD is worth 5 years. If you are not building on it, then you are losing. I mean, the value of what you have learned, your research is
updating knowledge.
Updating knowledge. So you are not updating knowledge. You are only here treating people without equipment. You know, so he left, and that is the condition that many doctors, you know, are facing in Nigeria today. You know, but you know, it's only the private hospitals that are trying to bridge the gap. But then, they can. I mean, how many Nigerians can afford to pay for treatment at private hospitals?
Okay. Now, we're having another story that is projecting 41% unemployment rate for Nigeria in 2023. That's KPMG now. That there are reports saying that Nigerian unemployment rate is to hit 41% in 2023, according to KPMG. So that's almost half of the population unemployed. I mean, how do you react to this?
Well, it's a serious issue because if you look at how others do it, you know, like I think 2 days ago I was watching CNN and we were talking about America adding 230-something thousand jobs in the month of February or so. You know, in Nigeria we don't really have the data of who is losing his job or who is getting new jobs. The data is not there. But you know, as far as we know, you see, the industries which are supposed to mop up people from the streets are not really functioning. We don't have industries that will mop up people from the street. The reason why, you know, in China, you know, people go to China or people import a lot from China because the industries are working. If you go to several European countries, the industries are working. If you go to America used to outsource their industries, but now they say, okay, no, we want to build these industries in America. If we can't do it in America, we'll take it to Mexico, which is a next door neighbor. As long as we don't have industries, there will be unemployment. And then there are low-hanging sectors. You know, last we were discussing the palm oil sector here. There are low-hanging sectors that we need to develop. But you see, there's no deliberate effort to develop those sectors. For instance, when government pumped a lot of money into rice farming, a lot of young people went into rice farming, you know. But then even the processing, you know, there is a lot of space in processing. Okay.
And I mean, isn't it ironical though that this administration will be rounding up in about 50 days, and this statistics is coming at this time. For a government that promised to take so many Nigerians out of poverty to create jobs, how do you put this side by side, this rating at this point?
Now, it's an indictment on the government to say that, look, you didn't keep your promises. You know, because we know that, you see, creating jobs or getting anything done is not by making statements. There must be strategies in place. You know, the unfortunate thing that I have seen in Nigeria is that, you see, we see a lot of short-term measures instead of long-term measures. You know, so when things are not done on long-term basis, you cannot achieve much. You know, I keep talking about maybe I don't know whether my thinking is not modern, but you can't have Nigeria with opportunity for construction. You know, roads need to be constructed, bridges need to be constructed, houses need to be constructed, and what government does is to give these things out on contract. When we have thousands of civil engineers who have graduated from universities, These engineers don't have jobs. So why must you give everything out as contract to companies when you know that if you give these guys this job and proper supervision and give them salaries, they will be able to do it? Now, if you go to, almost every sector, if you go to schools, it's go that in some schools you have one teacher taking 2 classes. In this country, you see overcrowded classrooms, but then we are not recruiting teachers to fill these vacancies. So there are vacancies. We are talking about medical doctors as well. Many medical doctors are unemployed. Some of those who go out, it's not really because they really wanted to go, but they don't have jobs in Nigeria. They go to private hospitals where they are exploited.
So Nigeria is not in lack of manpower.
We don't lack manpower, but we have not created the opportunity for them, to operate. So you see, there are many sectors are underdeveloped, and I'm thinking that the next administration should think about developing the sectors instead of, thinking about, I don't know, maybe
this goes back to, last week the Daily Trust did an editorial on the embargo on tertiary institution, on employment of lecturers into tertiary institutions, and the editorial talked about the damage, the harm that was causing. And like you just mentioned, a teacher taking 2 classes. So there's actually the space to bring in these people, but we're not bringing them in.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons why you have this unemployment.
Okay. All right, now let's move away from that. Talking about politics now, we have so many leads, or I would say titles, talking about the conflicts, if you like, or crisis within the APC about the leadership of the Senate or the National Assembly. The lead story on the Punch says APC kicks as Northern senators insist on Senate presidency. So obviously the whole issue about zoning and the rest of them, we are still at it, even after the general elections. Now we are moving into deciding the leadership of the National Assembly, and it's still a big issue.
Well, my worry is that there's a word that we have thrown away. In the 2023 election, this word called inclusivity. Now, you can't run a system, a country that is so diverse like Nigeria, and throw away inclusivity. Somebody was talking about competence. There's no part of this country that you will not find a competent person. There's this book, a collection of essays written by former CBN governor, former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi. Very interesting book. He said, look, if you need the best medical doctor from any ethnic community, from any state in Nigeria, you get. If you need the best person who can become the Senate president from any ethnic community, from any state in Nigeria, from any geopolitical zone, you will get. If you need any president, the president of Nigeria, from any geopolitical zone in Nigeria, you will find. So also it goes with religion. So if you say, okay, I need a Christian, I need a pagan, let me say a pagan who can be Senate president, you will get. So this idea of saying competence and then use, that word, to edge out some persons, because if you say, this is the only competent person, who says so? There are competent people all over this country. There's nothing that you want to do in Nigeria, you don't have someone that is competent to do it. So I'm thinking that, look, if the National Assembly will go the way of the presidency, the reason why we had crisis, let me use the word now, during the election, was because of the Muslim ticket. There was a kind of protest. Some of the votes that people are complaining about, they were actually protest votes. So if you now go to the National Assembly and say, okay, we need a competent Senate president, so anybody can come from anywhere. And now because it's a game of number, we know what will happen. You understand? Because if it's a game of number, we know some people who have more numbers than others. And so they can come up with anybody and play. So we just want a competent person. I don't think that is the right thing to do. You see, in 1999, the PDP came up with a very good idea, which means you zone. And that zoning brings people into the system. At the party level, at the executive level, at the level of legislature, and even judiciary. I don't know much about the judiciary. If you don't ensure inclusivity, there will be crisis. People will feel left out. People will feel that, look, they are being neglected. People will feel that, oh, they are not benefiting from the corporate existence of Nigeria. And I think that the mistake that the National Assembly will make, under whatsoever guise, is to use the word competence as if there's competence in one part of the country and there's no competence in another part. We have competent people in all parts of this country. And so there must be inclusivity. And that is what I advocate. You have to make sure that people, even women, I was shocked that only 3 women are going to be in the Senate. So how can only 3 women be in the Senate? You know, it's not acceptable. There has to be a change of the way we recruit people into the National Assembly to ensure that we have diverse kinds of people in the National Assembly. By the time you have only riffraffs, those who can buy votes, those who can buy the people, who can buy political parties, you know, in government, there's nothing we can achieve because they don't know what we feel. But if you have people from diverse background, they'll say, okay, this is what, these are the implications of this policy in this area among my people, among the people of so and so interest. But by that you gather people of the same mind, you know, in the National Assembly, the laws that they will make will not make any sense because they are making this law to fulfill a particular agenda.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director of Daily Trust Foundation. Thank you for your insights on some of the stories that we've looked at on our review this morning. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll take a short breather, and then at the top of the hour, we'll take a look at the headlines again and also other discussions on the program talking about the proposal made or suggestions about having the general elections in one day. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
right, welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at the headlines again for those who are just joining. We're an hour into the show already. Now, the first headline here, Hajj. FCT intending pilgrims get deadline to complete fair.
Easter, clerics must stop desecrating pulpits with partisanship, hate speech, Sultan.
Gunmen kill policeman, injure 3 officers in Ikorodu.
Now let's take a look at the details. Intending pilgrims who have made a deposit for the forthcoming Hajj with the Federal Capital Territory Muslim Pilgrims Welfare Board have till Friday, April 21st to complete their Hajj fare payment as announced by the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON. NACON had on Friday announced 2,919,000 naira only as Hajj fares for pilgrims from the FCT this year. A statement by the Public Relations Officer of the board, Muhammad Lawal, said the deadline was to enable the board to comply with the deadlines set by NACON for all states and the FCT in respect of payment of Hajj fares for this year. The statement explained that the payment of the balance by respective intending pilgrims would enable the board to establish its prospective master list for the trip, considering the time frame for the airlift of the intending pilgrims to the Holy Land.
President General, Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs and Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar III, has asked President, Christian Association of Nigeria, Daniel Oko, to leverage his committed leadership to partner with the NSCIA to guide, admonish and discourage pastors and imams from desecrating their pulpit with political partisanship and hate speech. The Sultan, in a message signed by Deputy Secretary General NSCIA, Professor Salisu Shehu, congratulated the Khan's leader and the entire Christians in Nigeria on the Easter celebration. He noted that as a religious festival commemorating a significant landmark in Christianity, Easter serves as a springboard for spiritual renewal, religious reawakening, and general rebirth.
Nangomen shot a policeman to death on Friday in the Ikorodu area of Lagos State. Police confirmed on Monday. It was further gathered that the assailants escaped with the rifle of the slain policeman. The police spokesman in Lagos State, SP Benjamin Hundeyin, told the news agency of Nigeria that 3 other police operatives were seriously injured in the attack. Operatives of the Imota Police Division in the Ikorodu area were on patrol duty when they came under the assailants' attack. Local sources said the assailants, suspected errand boys of land grabbers, ambushed the police patrol team, opened fire on it, killed one on the spot, and escaped with his rifle.
All right, now let's take a look at some of the packages we have. It's been almost a month since the 2023 elections, and residents in Kano are still coming to terms with the effects of post-election violence. Trust TV correspondent Idris Jibrin in this report examines the impact of the post-election violence that occurred in Kano State after the governorship polls. Here's the report.
Yusuf Al-Hassan is a member of First Aid Group in Kano who was attacked by a group of political thugs while on a campaign rally few days to the elections. Nearly a month after the election, Yusuf is still trying to come to terms with the trauma.
I'm not exactly the person that I am before. I'm feeling that at times. I'm feeling anxiety, this thing. I'm feeling some of many things that I'm not feeling before. Even the way that I'm behaving, I'm walking. I'm not. Even the work that we are doing at Masjid, I'm not go back to that work again.
Shortly after the governorship election result was announced in Kano, violence broke out in some part of the state, leading to a loss of lives, destruction of both government and individuals' properties across the state. According to some Kano residents, although the post-election violence has not inflicted much damage on the society, but it shows weakness on the part of security agencies who were saddled with the responsibility of maintaining law and order.
I believe there is negligence on the part of security operatives. They are saddled with the responsibility of protecting the lives and property of the people. If they had remained committed to their job, I think all these things wouldn't have happened. But several people were killed, many properties were destroyed, people's houses were burnt to ashes. I think the security operatives need to do much more than what they are doing right now.
Although Kano State Police Command has recently confirmed the arrest of many political thugs who were involved in post-election violence, but residents believe that politicians are equally responsible for the violence.
I think for us in our area, yes, there are crises, there are political crises. After the election was announced, violence happens there, and then I know 2 people were killed and another person was seriously injured and was taken to the hospital. So this thing have happened, and I believe politicians are responsible, are partly responsible for this, because I see no reason why a politician will allow his supporters to go and be destroying people's properties even after the election was announced. Whether you are the winner or the loser, I think it's not good to do that.
Elections are over, but not for people like Yusuf, who is still suffering with what may likely be a brain damage. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Thank you, Idris Jibrin, for that report. Now, residents of Nasarawa State have embarked on a counter-protest against the action of supporters of the People's Democratic Party who have been protesting against the outcome of the governorship election in the state. Abubakar Abdullahi puts together this report, which is presented from our studio.
The Nasarawa State residents who participated in the protest in their numbers expressed dismay and overactions they describe as an alien to the culture, norms and values of the people of the state. They said politics is not a do-or-die affair that will warrant people to be desperate to the extent going naked in the name of seeking justice, whereas there are appropriate avenues like the courts where they could seek redress. They maintain that since the election has been conducted and a winner announced, what should bother residents is what dividends of democracy can continue to enjoy, in addition to the peace the state already enjoys.
Therefore, we are here to make a counter-protest, which is more of peace, in what has been taking place in the previous days by opposition party that have hired women to come and naked themselves here. That does not characterize a good terms of humanity, because it is unorthodox, unconventional, and to the dignity and principle of human existence.
So after these elections that just happened on the 18th of last month, we were surprised to hear the fact that after the declaration of His Excellency as the winner of the elections, a group of women, mostly not from Nasarawa State, are taking over the streets of Lafia. They are not just taking over the streets of Lafia, but naked, with show of nudity. That is insanity.
The protesters called on politicians to put the interests of the state above theirs through actions that will promote the good of the state rather than tarnishing its image. It will be recalled that a day after the Independent National Electoral Commission declared Governor Abdullahi Sule as the winner of the state governorship election, some women in black attire gathered at the People's Democratic Party Secretariat in Lafia, protesting the outcome of the election. Trust TV reports that the PDP women protest in Nasarawa State has continued unabated, thereby making another section of the state to commence a counter-protest with a resolve that they will only stop when the women stop protesting naked.
All right, now Muslim faithful fasting in the month of Ramadan are enjoined to eat dates, fruit or drink water at the point of breaking their fast. Some habitual cigarette smokers, however, prioritize smoking as a starter before anything else. In this report, Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman sought to find out why.
It is sunset and the Muslim faithful are preparing to break their fasts, an act called iftar in Arabic language. While it is a prophetic injunction to use dates or fruits, then water as a starter, these category of Muslims have another priority: cigarettes.
If you allow me, I would have loved to smoke cigarette first before the interview, because it's more important to me. Of course, I broke my fast with the cigarette you are saying on my hands.
It differs, however, even amongst the cigarette smokers. This young man says despite the crave for a stick of his favorite cigarette, he can't afford to overlook the reward for adhering to prophetic injunction.
I first broke my fast with pap and akara before smoking the cigarette. I think it is the ideal thing to do.
Though one cannot rule out the impact of youthful exuberance as highlighted by this ex-smoker, the question is, what does Islam say about prioritizing cigarette at this point of iftar?
I'm an ex-smoker in the 1980s. Then, if I want to break my fast, I start with cigarette because of the crave for it. But I have repented during Babangida era. Doing so is contrary to prophetic teachings. Though initially there was no strong admonition against it, except that it is dangerous to health. Islamic scholars later found out that it is forbidden.
Fasting in the months of Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It requires faithful abstinence from eating, drinking, and engaging in sexual intercourse, as well as other immoral acts from the sunrise to the sunset. It's an act of worshipping Allah. But beyond the bountiful reward, it also purifies the heart, mind, and souls of the fasting Muslims. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Still on the Ramadan. Reward from Allah is a major motivation for fasting during this holy month. But beside the health benefit to their body system, non-Muslims who participate in Ramadan may miss the reward. Hamid Oyegbade completes this report.
Fasting in the month of Ramadan is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, considered to be obligatory act of worship for all Muslims. These include the Muslim creed, daily prayers, charity to the poor, fasting in the month of Ramadan, and the pilgrimage to Mecca for those who are able. Fasting has 8 benefits to human body besides the spiritual development and the reward from Allah.
The health benefits of fasting includes fasting promotes blood sugar control, it boosts the brain function and other cognitive functions. Fasting aids weight loss, and also fasting has been found to increase the production of growth hormone.
However, scholars believe that only those who are Muslims will earn reward from Allah for fasting during the month of Ramadan.
The Prophet says, he who fasts with faith and sincerity will get multiple rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the acceptance of prayer is included among the rewards from Allah during the fast of Ramadan. But for the non-Muslims, there is no reward for them because the faith is not there.
Ramadan is a month in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it down to be a training ground for the Muslim, to be able to nurture their mind and their hearts in obedience to the injunction and rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any Muslim that fasts according to the rule and injunction of Allah is compulsory that his mind will be in peace, and at the same time he'll be able to nurture his mind to follow the injunction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because someone is fasting, anything that can visit his fasting, he'll be shunning away from it, like involving in sinful acts. So that's the first thing which Allah wants us to gain from fasting, to be able to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The clerics are urging Muslims to step up their act of worship as the month of Ramadan winds down, so as to earn bountiful rewards from Allah. Hamid Oyegbade, Trust TV News, Oshogbo.
All right, now Nigerian youths have been advised to shun all forms of social vices that are capable of leading them to destruction. Their advice was given at the annual Ramadan lecture put together by the Federation of Muslim Women's Association in Nigeria, Form 1. Nafisa Bello tells us more.
In her welcome address, the Amira of the Edo State chapter of the Federation of Muslim Women's Association in Nigeria, Form 1, Hajia Rabi Abiri, enjoined well-to-do Muslims to increase their reward during the holy month by providing for the less privileged in the society. She also harped on the need to practice self-discipline while adhering to other fundamental rules guiding the faith.
We should endeavor to give alms to the vulnerable and do good deeds to reap the full reward of this holy month. Other important etiquettes of the holy month include reading the glorious Quran, observing the prescribed 5 daily prayers, practicing self-restraint and self-reflection.
Delivering his lecture on the topic, Realistic and Effective Goals for Ramadan, the guest lecturer, Imam Abdul Hafiz Sani, educated the Muslim Ummah, particularly the youths, against all forms of social vices by appreciating and learning the Quran, which he said guides one on the correct way of life.
What is the right of the Quran? The right of the Quran is that it should be learned. People should learn it. And it should be read. It should be studied. People should be educated in the Quran. Today, a lot of anomalies in the life of the people. The Muslims not be an exception. Today, you have many young men. It is not the worst of what is happening, but I have to start with that. Carrying on their head the light of which we have not seen before. They carry hair on their head, the light of which we have not seen before. You are calling it trend. You are calling it style. You are calling it any name you like.
Some participants took turns to corroborate and share the gains from the annual event.
Allah for forgiveness, then you ask for Allah mercy. Those are the different goals that a Muslim is supposed to earn and strive for during Ramadan.
Gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ tí Ramadan kọ́ wa, ìbẹ̀rù Ọlọ́run, òtítọ́, ká tẹ̀lé, ká gbé Ramadan àádálẹ̀ àníṣe ọkọ̀ Ọlọ́run fẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀.
When you are fasting, remove hatred, remove envy, every other thing from your mind and follow Islam.
Your fellow human beings, you show them love and you take care of them. Do not oppress them. As a leader, be humble, make sacrifice, and take care of those who are under you.
To spice up the annual event, which held at the Central Mosque, Benin City, the Edo State capital, there were other activities, which included recitation of the Holy Quran and the Hadith by students of Form 1 group of schools. Nafisa Bello, Trust TV News, Benin.
All right. Thank you, Nafisa Bello, for that beautiful report. With that, we'll now go for a very short break. When we return, we'll go into our first discussion of the day. Please don't go anywhere.
documenting the Nigerian story.
All right, thank you for staying with us. It's Daybreak on Trust TV. Time for us to take a look at our discussion for today, the major discussion that we are having. And we are looking at a proposal. Now, the senator representing Ebonyi Central Senatorial Zone, Senator Obinna Ogba, said that conducting the country's general election in one day will save cost, lives, time, and also ensure convenience to the electorate. Ogba, who is the Senate Committee Chairman on Sports, said that before the end of the 9th Assembly, he will be among senators who will advocate the amendment of the Electoral Act to ensure such is done. Now, we will be talking about the merits or demerits of this and other perspectives to this issue, and we have Jide Ojo with us in the studio to talk about this issue. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak today.
Thanks for having me. Happy Easter in arrears.
Yeah, same here.
Same to you.
Same here. Well, very interesting conversation. A lot of advantages, highlighted by the senator representing Ebonyi Central Senatorial Zone on this matter. He talks about cost. He talks about saving lives. I mean, we cannot divulge the issue of violence in our process. With the duration of our elections, talking about time and also issue of convenience for the election. We had instances where people travel to and fro, and then to travel and then get to a certain point, and then you're told, oh, it's postponed, and then several things happen and all that, and perhaps in the process some people are disenfranchised and the rest. Let's get your initial reaction to this. What do you make of this proposal, having elections in one day?
There are two sides to every coin, and what the distinguished senator has proposed is a welcome development, something that should be given a thought. But I just don't think it's something that needed to be legislated. Let me say, I recall in 2018, February, when the National Assembly introduced Clause 25 into the Electoral Bill amendment. And part of that was to even add 1 day to the 2 days that INEC has proposed to conduct election. And they further said National Assembly election should hold first. I don't know whether, Stella, you remember.
Yeah,
in 2018.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
There was an attempt by the National Assembly. And I tell you for free, that was the basis. Clause 25 was the main reason the president withheld assent from endorsing the Electoral Bill amendment of 2018. It happened in February. Because the National Assembly was trying to order the sequence of election, was prescribing to INEC how it should do its work. Meanwhile, the Constitution in Section 15, Clause 15 of the third schedule. Clause 14 talks about the type of people that should constitute INEC, people of impeccable character, 40 years and above, for resident electoral commissioner, 35 years, for national commissioners, 35 years. Prior to then, we used to have the minimum age for the national chairman of INEC at 50. When Iwu was there, Iwu, Ebegobadia, Ephraim Akpata, all of that period, the minimum age for INEC chairman was 50. But after the amendment of the Constitution in 2010, that age limit was brought down. So clause 15 of the third schedule says INEC shall have the power to organize and conduct. There were 3 words used, and that gave INEC omnibus power on how it wants election organized. If you recall, even ahead of this 2023 election, some parties went to court to challenge INEC about the sequence of election. They said, no, don't start with the presidential or national elections. Start with the state so that there is no bandwagon effect. So conduct state governorship and state house of assembly first, then 2 weeks after conduct. So different requests are coming from different quarters. But what I'm saying is that must we alter the constitution? The constitution had already given INEC that discretion. Look at it this way, Stella and Madam. INEC did not need to go to National Assembly to say, oh, we are used to having election between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. So we want to alter the time for election. So give us a new time that we should. No, INEC just dealt with it administratively. It says election will start from 8:30 to 2:30. Didn't need to request for any extra power because that section, clause 15 of the Constitution, already say power to organize, conduct, and I keep forgetting.
But you know, Mr. Jideojo, what you're trying to say is that INEC has these powers to do these things,
yes,
which therefore means that this kind of request shouldn't be coming from the legislature. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
so INEC is the one that would sit back and say, is this something that is doable?
And it's doable. So I'm coming to that second part. The second part is the merit of it. In fact, I'm a new convert that have joined the call for all elections to be held in one day. I said, yeah, this 2023 election cost the nation $478.6 billion. And I have not been contradicted by INEC. They got $305 billion in 2022 budget, got additional $178.6 billion in 2023 budget. This is not TRC. This is what I know. If you and it's online. If you do a Google check of what the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, when she was giving breakdown on January 4th, I remember on January 4th, the breakdown she gave about statutory transfer for 2023 budget, INEC got $178.6 billion. In 2022, it got $305 billion. If you add the two together, so can we reduce that? I mean, it's doable. In Kenya, in August 9, 2022, Kenya held its general election, national elections. And there were 6 elections held simultaneously. All you just need is additional ballot box. Additional ballot box. Additional ballot paper. And you are home and dry. So, I have yet, and you know what people are not even saying? Even from the point of having improved voter turnout, if you have all elections in one day, there will be significant improvement in voter turnout. Because if my friend is contesting election, maybe he's going for governorship, and you are going for Senate, or another friend is going for presidential, I will have cause to vote. Because there are different reasons people will have to vote. But situations where you just peg 3 elections on a particular day, 2 elections, another 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's very wasteful.
But you know why there will be voter turnout? As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about that. Why there will be voter turnout? Don't forget, we have the technology issue as well. When we had problems with the beavers here and there during this election, they said, oh, it's because when they deployed it for Osun and we saw how effective it was because it was just Osun. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because it was across the country. Now, if you're going to deploy technology for 4 elections in one day, how easy would that be?
It doesn't really matter. If you can deploy technology, what does technology do? what does Beavers do? The Beavers does accreditation. Accreditation, authentication. So you come to the polling unit, you bring a permanent voter's card, and Beavers is scanned against Beavers, and Beavers say, yes, this is from INEC. It's not cloned. So the second layer of accreditation is to check your fingerprints or your facials to be sure you are not impersonating. So that's where it ends. Once that accreditation process is concluded, you are given 3, 4, 5, 6 ballot papers. And you are already, the ballot boxes have been properly designated. Senate, House of Reps, State Assembly, Governorship, President. Even if you made a mistake, even if a voter makes a mistake and drop a presidential ballot in a box meant for governor, that's why when election is concluded, there's what is called sorting. Sorting is the first thing you do after the election has been closed. You sort because we have had even situations in the past where one ballot box is used for multiple elections. So in the same ballot box, you can have House of Reps, Senate. So you sort. You first remove House of Reps this way, Senate this way, then you begin to count what each party gets. So it's not a technology. It's not technology has nothing to do. And what the other thing that Beavers will do thereafter, after the counting of the election, recording of the scores of each of the candidates on the result sheets, is that it scans. You use the Beavers to take picture and then send to a dedicated portal.
Okay, I'm just concerned about the capacity of the electoral umpire in this instance to be able to do, something like this, conducting the multiple elections in one day. So, for instance, we talk about the manpower of INEC. We talk about logistical issues. We talk about whether or not INEC can be able to accommodate as many people as will turn out for that elections, because we are talking elections at the subnational level and also at the federal level. So taking lessons from the 2023 general elections, do you think that INEC have so far been able to accommodate as many, like in the last election, people that came out to participate in that elections? We've had a lot of stories about disenfranchisement for some logistical issues and operational issues and the rest of them.
Again, where there's a will, there's a way. The same number, see, I gave you an example of Kenya. Kenya is not more developed than Nigeria.
But not as populated as Nigeria, though?
Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa. When you talk population, we just did analysis of 2023 election. The voter turnout was less than 30%. Meanwhile, provision was made for 100%. Now it's like money, it's like you gather naira in paper and you just lighted it. Because that's the waste.
Mr. DJ, I want to assume you're talking about voter turnout based on the number of vote cast. Am I right?
Yes.
So do you think that is enough to actually determine the turnout of voters based on the total number of vote cast, given the challenges we had in terms of logistics and all the complaints about people being disenfranchised, how people were in thousands in some polling units and could not vote?
Again, let's separate wheat from the chaff. My knowledge, and I've been observing election in Nigeria since 1999. You asked me a simple question: should we have all election in one day? And I say yes. And it's something that we can give a thought to for 2027. And we have 4 years to plan ahead of that. You are talking population. American population is about 300 million. They have all their elections in one day, even though they have what is called midterm elections. I, seated before you, have been privileged to observe election in US. In 2010 midterm election, when I went there, did you know that even though what you read in the media is, election into Senate and the Congress, there are other elections that are held simultaneously in that same election, like voting for Board of Education, Board of Health, referendum, state referendum, that, you want... Do you even know that in US, people vote judges into office? So, my experience in 2010 when I went there was that there were 6 elections that took place simultaneously. The media hype is on the political offices. But election in US goes beyond political offices. I just gave you instance that they vote on constitutional amendment. They vote on referendum. They vote on board.
All right, but Mr. Jide, yes, they vote on all of that. And it's possible they have all these elections together, right?
Yeah.
But then they have a different process where you can vote. You don't have to come to a polling unit to vote.
Yeah.
So if we're thinking of having all of these elections in one day, maybe ahead of 2027, is that something we could also consider, having a situation where you can also vote through other means, not everybody converging on the polling unit?
Exactly, Stella, you are spot on. That is what we should be looking at. Altering our constitution to allow for multiple voting system. Right now, you only have election for 6 hours. And I have said this. Election for 6 hours will continue to yield low voter turnout. Because voter turnout is tied to a number of factors which we have not deemed fit to address. Again, I like using the Kenya example. And I've actually observed election in at least 3 African countries, apart from Nigeria, in Ghana, in Uganda, and in Egypt. Let me shock you. In Egypt, do you know that election takes place for 12 hours? 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And they only have elections inside classrooms, public schools, with perimeter fence. So you're coming in, there are armed soldiers at the entrance to that school that will frisk you and make sure that you are not coming with any weapon. You can come with your child, you can come with your wife, you can take selfie. The only thing is that you are coming in, you are going into that classroom, and you are casting, and it's judges of the court that are presiding officers. Aside from that, they don't even have PVCs, they don't have permanent voters card. What they have is national ID card. They use their national ID card to vote. So this is not rocket science, and I am playing down the US issue so that you don't say, don't compare apple and oranges. Let's stay in Africa. In Kenya, in 2022, Kenyans in 12 other countries voted. 12 other countries, both in Africa and Europe. Kenyans in South Africa voted, those in Tanzania, those in Malawi, those in Rwanda, Kenyans in Germany, in US, in Canada, had the opportunity to vote. In UK. But in Nigeria, have we allowed diaspora voting? The answer is no. Or what is called out of country voting. The answer is no. In Kenya, election takes place from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 12 hours. We are still doing 6 hours and we are making a mess of it. Now, in Kenya, prisoners, those who are in prison, are allowed to vote. Prisoners. So it's not a rocket science. And I just told you that elections held for 6 political offices on the same day in Kenya. It's not about the size of a country. It's the commitment. Okay. It's the fact that you believe in... Okay, there's also what is called early voting. You and I, 3 of us, I'm not sure we voted in 2023 elections. I was doing the media rounds. So, even though I was an accredited observer, I observed under the auspices of the Nigeria Women Trust Fund for the first election, you know, February 25. So I observed in Karu, Maraba, Yanya axis. But for the second round, governorship and House of, you know, the Abuja FCT does not vote. So I was doing the media rounds. In Ghana has what is called early voting provision. Early voting means those of you who will be on election duty or who are, what do they call it, emergency. No, that is not emergency. Those who are going to be on special service.
Essential service.
God bless you. Essential services. Those who are going to be on essential fire services, doctors, journalists, all of the people who are going to be on essential services are allowed to cast their ballot ahead of the day of election. What is done is that they have designated polling units. It's not all the nationwide polling units. Only designated. So maybe in FCT there could be 3 or 4 places where, because it's a small number of people anyway, so where they will say in Kubwa, in Lugbe, or in Karu, they can just have 4 places or 5 where people are not going to be, or people are not going to be able to vote on the election day will have opportunity to cast their ballot. The only thing is that you don't count those ballots. You seal it, keep it safe, and on the day of the general election, you count it.
So, but with all the problems we have in Nigeria, what if that box is snatched before the day of counting?
That's part of the problem. The lack of trust. You know, one thing Professor Mahmoud Yakubu did, which he is not getting credit for. In 2023, he insisted, and for the first time, we have all election materials printed locally, just like our currency. He insisted. In 2011, how many of you remember the ash cloud in Europe that prevented materials that were printed from coming in, and election had to be postponed? Now, this time around, the huge sums of money stayed within the economy. Nigeria Printing and Minting, another big, printing. But before then, the issue of trust has robbed us. And it happened even in this election. Binani, whose printing press was used to print some of the sensitive documents, was dragged. INEC was, said, oh, you empowered her so that she could win, she could get money to win election. INEC said, well, our company did well. She's not on the board of the company, and we found that the company competent to do business with.
Another thing to worry about today is whether or not having all the elections in one day could result in the bandwagon thing, having the top to bottom kind of effect, where people just vote parties, political parties, and without consideration to the individuals contesting for the various offices and the rest of them. Is that going to have a negative impact?
Again, let me say, research has not corroborated your position. And I'm happy for this opportunity that Trust TV has given me to educate Nigerians on this. There was a revolution in 2023. We have not come to terms to it. When I received the senators elect, House of Reps elect from INEC, and I tried to read, I saw level of sophistication of Nigerian electorate. In this same election, in February 25th, in Nasarawa, they were voting Labour Party for president, but 2 out of 3 senatorial elections in the same Nasarawa was won by SDP, not by Labour Party. So where is the bandwagon? In Delta, they voted Labour Party for presidential election, but in the same Delta, 2 out of 3 senatorial districts was won by APC. That's a PDP state. That's a state where the running mate to Atiku Abubakar came from. But PDP only got the, is it Delta North, by proxy. How did it happen? Majority voted for Labour. Labour does not have candidate. So the next person, Nadine Nwoko, came second, but because Labour did not have candidate, he got the certificate of return as the winner. I don't know if you get my drift. But the sophistication I'm referring to is that in the same election held on the same day, with all the so-called revolution and all of that, people were able to still distill that for this particular election, we vote president for this one, we vote this other party for this one. So the bandwagon effect that we were afraid of, that Nigerian voters is so that if you have presidential election, that even as we have the two-layer election now, because APC won on February 25th, it means APC will win landslide and mudslide on March 18th. Did it happen? It didn't. In Oyo State, APC won 33 out of 33 local government for Asiwaju. 33 local government that Oyo State has voted APC on February 25. 3 weeks after, the governor is PDP, Seyi Makinde, about 30 to 32 local government voted Seyi Makinde 3 weeks after, the same electorate.
Yeah, but do you think that this would have been the case if these elections were held in one day?
That is why I gave you two scenarios. The Nasarawa example, 3 ballot papers were given to people at the same time. It's not like you go come. 3 ballot papers were given, and then I voted for president, I voted Labour. But for Senate, I voted SDP. I didn't even vote PDP. I voted SDP. I have not checked what how many House of Reps comes from other party. But what I've told you, if you take cognizance, and these are things you can do as a media researcher, go and look at the outcome of 2023 elections. For the first time, we have rainbow coalition in the National Assembly. House of Reps, 8 political parties won seats into House of Reps. Did you know what happened in Anambra? In Anambra, they voted 97% for Peter Obi on February 25th. In the same election, they voted YPP for Senate. YPP, so why didn't if you are talking of bandwagon, it should have been that because Peter Obi is from there and obedient movement is very strong, so everybody that contested under Labour Party in Southeast should have been fait accompli for them. They should have won. Let me also give you the example in Abia. In Abia, they voted what? Peter Obi, about 90%. But did you see what happened with the Senate? Your friend
Ehinaya
Abaribe was APGA. They call it APUGA, I don't know why. Just like LUP. I know it to be LP, but they say LUP. So if an Igboma wants to call APGA, we know it to be APGA, they will say APUGA. Even their national chairman will call it APUGA.
It has to do with the accent.
So let me mimic them. So APUGA. Remember in this outgoing next Senate, he represented PDP.
Yeah.
But because he knew he wasn't getting the ticket, he crossed over to APUGA. And he won. He won for APUGA. In the same election, OUK, former governor, Orji Uzor Kalu, which party did he represent?
APC.
APC. He won. Then the third one, I think it's the third senatorial seat that was won by Labour. Now, I'm asking, if there is bandwagon, it should have been obedient Labour.
Okay, so
sweep everything.
But do you think that there's a peculiarity with the 2023 general elections? Because 2015 was not like this. I mean, 2015 we saw the APC tsunami that brought in a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have won elections.
It still happened in this one. Record the guy in Kaduna South.
And the one in Yobe State.
Was there one in Yobe?
Yeah, there was this guy, a teacher.
Oh, that defeated the speaker.
Yeah,
35-year-old teacher that defeated the speaker of Yobe State House of Assembly. Then in Southern Kaduna, one guy that was on a motorbike,
tricycle driver,
who won. And then there was this, was in Enugu, this guy that was said to be vigilante, member of the vigilante that won under the Labour Party. See, as a political scientist, I don't like to parrot popular beliefs that is not rooted in empirical studies. And that's why, you know, I mean, I've had debate with people when they say, oh, this 2023 election is the worst election in history. On what basis?
No, but the question I'm asking is whether the 2023 election is peculiar. It's different from the ones we've had in 2015, for instance, talking about the bandwagon effect. Because what you narrated, what you explain now is as though the bandwagon effect does not exist in Nigeria's politics.
No. It used to. But you see, with the help of technology, and the advancement in political consciousness of Nigerians, don't forget, our success democratically has been incremental. It has not been revolutionary. 2015 that you talked about, yes, people rode to victory on the name of President Muhammadu Buhari. But there were still states that stood firm and still did not swallow the Buhari phenomenon. Buhari phenomenon largely happened in the north, which is a catchment area anyway. But the same thing with 2023, obedient movement largely happened in Christian-dominated North Central and Southeast and South-South. It didn't happen in the Southwest beyond Lagos. And people didn't realize that obedience or labor did not do the magic in Lagos. I have advanced 5 reasons why Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu lost Lagos. But you see, the obedient movement were claiming victory as if it was made possible by their strength. The Igbo factor was there, the religious factor was there, the hatred, the envy of Afenifere leadership against Tinubu political dynasty was there, the NSAS, ashes of NSAS protest was there, the economy, the cash crunch, and the fuel crisis.
And maybe the cosmopolitan nature of Lagos.
Nature was also there.
Mr. Jide, the sponsor of this bill at the National Assembly, he said it would save costs, it would be convenient, but he didn't talk about an issue that dogs our elections. That's the issue of credibility. Do you think that if all elections are held in one day, it will be more credible than what we've been having?
This is a bill for the future. I don't see it flying this, and I've told you this now, guys. See, that even if you want to alter the Electoral Act at this time, it will not fly, because Buhari is like a lame duck now. He has barely 1 month left in office. I'm not sure it will give vent to wanting to assent to any alteration. And I've told you that even if they decide to alter the Electoral Act, it will not. So what we are doing is...
No, what I'm saying is, it's not about the bill as it were. It's about the fact that, let's imagine that even INEC says, okay, we're going to have these elections in one day, all 4.
Yeah.
Would it be more credible than what we've been having?
I should think so. I should think so on the basis that we are improving. Even though for the naysayers, they don't seem to have come to terms with that improvement. And I give them, I'm not ignorant of why people dig deep when they lose election in Nigeria. Election in Nigeria is one of the costliest in the world. And when people, we run what is called winner takes all. You know, there is no bidu, no soft landing. You can invest all your life savings in election in Nigeria. You move from being a billionaire or a millionaire to become a pauper in one electoral cycle. Look at people who lost re-election. Members of House of Reps, members of Senate. Some of them have been pauperized because they mortgage. Some of them have sold their properties to run this election. So there's no safety net for them. unless they found accommodation in getting appointment when the incoming administration comes. So for that reason, people cannot process defeat, which is why it's winner takes all. Because it's winner takes all, because it's first past the post. So by virtue of one vote, I defeat Bala, I win everything, I become a big man, he loses everything, even if he almost got it. And we have seen very close contest. Look at what happened in Sokoto in 2019. What's the margin by which Tambuwal
300,
defeated?
a little over 300.
Yeah, exactly, very close. Even Osun in 2018, they have the first victory. Right. So these are the reasons why people don't want to think defeat. Okay. But beyond and above that, why I accepted that it can improve credibility of election. And in my column last week, so let me land on this. I know our time is up. In my column last week, I highlighted 10 electoral stakeholders. 10. You cannot single out INEC for credibility of election. If all the 10, or at least 8 out of 10, does not agree to have credible election, not even remove Mahmoud Yakubu, go and bring the person that conducted the election. In Kenya, the election that brought William Ruto, some members of the Electoral Commission in Kenya even openly disagree with the outcome of the election. So disputed election is not peculiar to Nigeria. But other stakeholders must key in for us to have credible elections.
All right, Jide Ojo, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak. I know we do not always, each time you're on the show, we don't have enough time to, to talk about the issues, but we thank you for coming up and sharing your perspectives with us. That's the amount we can take for now on Daybreak Show. Join us again tomorrow for another time on the program. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba Ilea. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyaji. For now, do have a very pleasant day.